Today, today we will be having our topic, simple curves from our fundamentals of surveying. This time, we are now in our route surveying. For our route surveying, this is a geometric design of highway curves. And for our highway curves, we have this what we call horizontal curves and also our vertical curves. For our horizontal curves, we will be having our top view approach. It's just like we are from the above and tinitingnan natin yung highway natin na horizontally laid out only. And for our vertical curves, nasa side view approach tayo. So therefore, ang tinitingnan natin dito is vertically laid out siya. Okay? So, for our horizontal curves, again, this is a top view approach. We have these simple curves, compound curves, reverse curves, and fourth, spiral curves. So first, we have these simple curves. For our simple curve, a simple curve is a circular arc extending from one tangent to the next. Let's say, for example, we have this highway and this is a simple curve. Again, for a simple curve, it is a circular arc. So if this is a circular arc, means this is just a part of a circle. Okay? So we have tangent, and also we will be using the properties of a circle later on. So these are the elements of a simple curve. Again, simple curve is just an arc of a circle. Ibig sabihin, this is just part of a circle. So if this is just part of a circle, we are going to use the properties of a circle. So let's say, for example, this is our circle, and again, if this is our simple curve, this is just part of a circle. So from this point to this point, this is what we call as the radius of a circle. Also, this one, radius of a circle. So if we are going to isolate this will become like this. Okay? So this is now our simple curve. So isa-isahin natin yung elements of a circle, of a simple curves. First, we have this point of curvature. Point of curvature is the point where the circular curve begins. The back tangent is the tangent to the curve at this point. So let's say, for example, this is our simple curve. Again, point of curvature is the point where the circular curve begins. So yung PC natin ay ito. This is what we call our PC. This is our point of curvature. And if we are going to pass a line at a single point only, touching one point only doon sa ating curve, ang tawag natin doon is a tangent line. So sa ating simple curve, meron tayong tinatawag na back tangent and forward tangent. So from our simple curve and from our PC, ang tawag natin sa tangent na nagsisimula doon is our back tangent. Okay? So this one is a back tangent. And next, we have this point of tangency. The point of tangency is the end of the curve. The forward tangent is tangent to the curve at this point. So, saan naman yung ating point of tangency? Point of tangency is the end of the curve. So, if this is the start of the curve, ito yung ating curve, this is our point of tangency. This point. So, this is our PT. And if we are going to pass a tangent line here, ito yung ating tangent line, and yung tawag natin sa tangent na yon is forward tangent. Next, we also have point of intersection or PI. The point of intersection marks the point where the back and forward tangents intersects. The surveyor indicates it, one of the stations on the preliminary transverse. So, again, the point of intersection It is where the point of the tangents from the PC and PT intersects. So if this is our back tangent and this is our forward tangent, ito ngayon yung ating point of intersection. This is what we call our PI. Okay? And next, we have this intersecting angle. Intersecting angle is the deflection angle at the PI. The surveyor either compute its value from the preliminary transverse station angles or measures it in the field. So ito naman yung ating intersecting angle. So from our back tangent to forward tangent, if we have this deflection angle, again deflection angle, ito yung ating back tangent and this is our forward tangent, nag-deflect yung angle niya, this is what we call our intersecting angle. Tawagin natin to as I. And next, we also have this radius. The radius is the radius of the circle of which the curve is an arc. So again, if our simple curve is just part of a circle and this is an arc, therefore we have this radius. So from the center of the circle, this is our radius. This is what we call our radius. If that is radius, also this is also radius. Okay, next, length of curve. The length of curve is the distance from the PC to PT measured along the curve. So if this is our arc, the length of curve is the length along the curve. So ito ngayon yun. Ito mismo. Yung curve mismo yon. So that is our length of curve. And papangalanan natin yon as L only. Again, length of curve is the distance from the PC to the PT measured along the curve. So if this is our PC and if this is our PT, the length of curve is the distance from PC along the curve. Hindi mismong ganyan. Kasi ang tawag naman natin doon later on is long chord. So again, this is our L. Length of curve. That's just L. Next, we also have this long chord. Ito na yung sinasabi ko. The long chord is the chord from the PC to the PT. If we are going to recall what is a chord, it is a line. It is a line wherein it crosses the point, wherein it crosses the circle at exactly 2 points. So if this is part of a circle, long chord is where it intersects the PC and PT. So this is what we call our long chord. This is our L. Okay, next, we also have this tangent distance. The tangent distance is the distance along the tangents from the PC to PT or PI to PT. These tangents or these distance are equal on a simple curve. So we have this what we call our tangent. So measured from here to dito, this is our tangent. Mula dito hanggang dito, this is our tangent T, and if this is tangent, this is also tangent. Kung ano yung measurement nito, same lang nito. Okay. Next, we also have this central angle. The central angle is the angle formed by two radii drawn from the center of the circle O to the PC and PT. The central angle is equal to intersecting angle. So if this is an arc, and if this is radius and this is also radius, again the central angle is the angle formed by two radii. So if this is our two radii or two radius, this is our central angle. And if this is I, take note, this angle is just the same as this. So, kapag alam mo na to, ibig sabihin, alam mo na rin yung yung angle from our central angle. Okay? So, same lang itong angle na to at saka ito. And next, we have this external distance. External distance is the distance from the PI to the midpoint of the curve. The external distance bisects the interior angle at the PI. So ito yung ating external distance. Again, external distance is the distance from the midpoint of the curve to the point of intersection. So ito naman yung ating external distance from this point to the midpoint of the curve to the point of intersection. Yun yung ating external distance. Dito naman yun. And next, we also have this middle ordinate. The middle ordinate is the distance from the midpoint of the curve to the midpoint of the long chord. The extension of the middle ordinate bisects the central angle. So ito naman yun. From the midpoint of the curve to the midpoint of the long chord, if this is our long chord, this is what we call our middle ordinate. Again, the extension line of the middle ordinate going to the central angle, binabisect niya daw yung ating I o yung central angle. So this is just I over 2 as well as this is also I over 2. Okay? So these are the properties of a simple curve. We have these three ways in which sharpness of a curvature is expressed. First, we have this radius. The curvature is defined by stating the length of radius. The radius is usually taken as multiple of 100 feet or 100 meters. So this is our first way to determine the sharpness of a curve. First is our radius. Second is the degree of curve by arc definition. So this is dA, defined as the angle subtended at the center of the curve by an arc 20 meters long. In general, dA, or the degree of curve by arc definition, is the angle subtended by an arc equal in length to one full station, or in English system, 100 feet. So dito sa Pilipinas, we are considering a one full station equivalent to 20 meters. So if we want to determine the degree of curve by arc definition, so we're just going to equate yung ating arc into one full station. Again, one full station is just equivalent to 20 meters, or in English system, 100 feet. So if this is 20 meters, and if we want to determine now the degree of curve by arc definition, this is now our dA. This is what we call degree of curve by arc definition. So if that is dA, this is also R. This is our radius. This is also our radius. Again, if this is 20 meters long, Ito daw yung 20 meters. So, if we want to determine now dA, so we are going to use the ratio and proportion. So, maalala ninyo, if this is just a part of a circle, pwede natin gamitin yung properties of a circle, which is, if we want to determine dA, we are going to equate or to ratio this, we are going to ratio this arc by the full revolution of a circle. So, paano ang gagawin natin doon? So, if we want to determine now our degree of curve by arc definition, maalala nyo pa guys, if we have a one full revolution, how many degrees are there? So, if we have a one full station or one revolution, one full revolution, that is equivalent to 360 degrees. Or in radians, that is 2 pi. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, so isulat ko lang dito, in one revolution, we have equivalent to 360 degrees, or this is also equivalent to 2 pi radians. Okay? So, gamitin natin ngayon. If this is 20 meters, kunin natin to. So, i-ratio natin ngayon itong arc sa buong length ng ating circle. So, kung maalala ninyo, ano na ang tawag natin dito sa full length of our circle? That is just our circumference. And maalala ninyo, the circumference of a circle in terms of radius, that is equivalent to 2 pi r. So, i-ratio natin to ngayon para makakuha tayo ng value for our dA. So, first, itong ating degree of curve by arc definition, if this is dA angle, i-over ko siya ngayon kay 20 meters. Okay? And next, saan ko siya i-equate para makakuha tayo or makapag-ratio and proportion tayo? Di ba alam natin, in one full revolution, that is equivalent to 360 degrees. Pero, ano ngayon yung length ng ating circle if one full revolution yung ginamit natin? Kanina, if ang angle lang natin ay dA at ang yung cover lang na arc natin ay 20 meters, how about if we are going to consider one full revolution or 360 degrees? Tama ba? This is just the circumference of a circle. And the circumference of a circle in terms of radius, that is equivalent to 2 pi r. So therefore, calculating this equation, cross multiply, iwan lang natin si dA, this will give us a value for the degree of curve by arc definition, which is equivalent to 1145.916 over r. So ito na yung gagamitin natin as equation. Okay? So this is our degree of curve in terms of arc definition. Next, we also have this degree of curve by chord definition. Kanina, dito sa ating degree of curve by arc definition, yung 20 meters, yung one full station natin, ay nilagay natin along the curve. So this time, if we have degree of curve by chord definition, defined as the angle subtended by a chord having a length of one full station or 20 meters in metric system, or in English system, that is 100 feet. So therefore, kanina, doon sa ating arc definition, yung 20 meters ay nandito sa ating arc. Ngayon, yung 20 meters na ay ito na mismo by chord definition. So yung 20 meters ngayon ay yung ating long chord. So this is just 20 meters. Okay? So this is now our degree of curve by chord definition. So if we are going to isolate this one, let's just isolate this triangle. So this is still our radius. Ano na ngayon yung angle na to? So yung angle na to ngayon is just half of our DC. So we are going to isolate this one. So dahil ito ay nahati na ngayon sa dalawa, yung 20 meters, this time this is now 10 meters. This is still our radius. And this time this is half ng DC. Okay? So this is still right angle. So anong pwede nating magamit dito as our trigo function? Using ito na lang, tsaka ito, this is angle. So this is just sine function. Okay? So sine angle equivalent to 10 over hypotenuse, which is r. Okay, so this is now equivalent to sine DC over 2 is equal to 10 over r. Okay? So cross multiply. Ngayon yung r naman yung in terms yung r naman gagamitin natin, or pwede na ito mismo if we want to determine DC or r. Okay? So kapag chord definition, minsan ang ginagamit dito or ang hinahanap dito is yung r or yung radius. So therefore, this will become 10 over sine DC over 2. Okay? So this will be our formula for the degree of chord using degree of curve using chord definition. Okay, so these are the formulas that we will be using for our simple curve. First, we have this length of curve, which is yung L. Again, if we are going to determine what is length of curve is just the length or the distance from PC to PT along the curve. So this is our L. Okay, so how can we solve for that? So if this is our L, again, this is just part of a circle. So ito na yung ating simple curve. So ang tawag natin dito kanina, di ba, this is just I. This is our central angle. And this is our length of curve. So ito na rin yun. This is also our length of curve. So erase ulit natin to galing dito sa ating circle. Okay? So if this is I, then this is L. Pwede kong gamitin I over L. Saan ko siya i-ratio? Sa buong angle ng circle, which is 360 degrees. So if that is 360 degrees, ano naman ngayon yung na-cover na length ng 360 degrees nung umikot tayo? Gano to kahaba? So that is just the circumference of a circle, that is 2 pi r. Okay? So if we are going to cross multiply this, iwan lang natin si L. L will become, pupunta ito dito, aakyat ito dito, bababa si 360. So this will become 2 over 360, that will become 180 degrees. Tapos aakyat din to, this will become pi r then I over 180 degrees. So this will now be our formula for length of curve. Next, for our tangent distance and for our long chord, first, tangent distance. So this is our tangent distance. From dito to dito. So consider natin to. Again, if this is a tangent, if we can still recall, tangent crosses the point, crosses the circle at a single point. So ito yon. And yung angle na na-form doon, from here, that is just 90 degrees. So yung angle na to ay 90 degrees yan. Okay? So if that is 90 degrees, this is still our radius. We are going to consider this triangle. Okay, so if we are going to consider this triangle, so this is a right triangle. So ano ngayon yung angle na to? Yung angle nito is just half of the central angle, or I over 2. Ano ngayon yung pwede nating magamit dito? If this is our angle, this is our radius, and this is t. So pwede natin gamitin dito is tangent function. Okay? For our tangent function, tangent I over 2, it's just equal to t over r. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, tangent I over 2 is just equivalent to t over r. So, if we want to get the tangent only, so that is just equivalent to t r tangent I over 2. So this is now our formula for tangent. Next, for our long chord naman. For our long chord, ito yung ating long chord. It crosses the circle from PC to PT. Ito yun. Okay? So, i-consider din naman natin tong angle at tong triangle na to. So, if we are going to consider this triangle, if this is L, yung kabuuan nito, ito na ngayon, yung half na lang nito, it's just L long chord over 2. That is still our radius. This is still I over 2. Same lang if we are going to consider here. No? So, this is still right angle. So, ano naman yung pwede natin gamitin dito as trigo function? I, L, LC over 2 over R. Or this is R. So, this is just sine function. Tama ba? Sine angle is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So again, sine I over 2 is equal to opposite, which is half of the long chord, over hypotenuse, which is the radius. So cross multiply, we can say that LC long chord is just equivalent to, iwan natin yung 2 sa baba, then cross multiply, we can say that this is 2R sine I over 2. And this is now our formula for our long chord. Next, we also have this external distance, which is E. External distance is the distance from the midpoint of the curve to the point of intersection. So ito naman yun. Okay, so if we want to determine now the distance of our external distance, or the measurement of our external distance, we are going to consider this triangle. So this is our radius. Ano naman yung tawag natin from this point to this point? This is still our radius, tama? And if we are going to consider this triangle, ito, mula dito hanggang dito, tama ba? This is still I over 2, yung angle na to. This is still right triangle. So ano na ngayon yung distance ng hypotenuse natin, or yung measurement? Tama ba? That is just the combination of radius and external distance. And yung adjacent natin is yung R. So anong pwede natin gamitin dito? We have angle, adjacent, and hypotenuse, which is R plus E. So that is cosine function. So therefore, we can say that cosine I over 2 is equal to R over R plus E. That is cosine function. So isulat natin yan. Cosine I over 2 is equal to adjacent, which is R, over hypotenuse, which is the combination of R plus E. Okay? So if we are going to consider this, let's just cross multiply. The equation will become R plus E multiplied by cosine I over 2 is equal to R. So, ito, multiply natin dito, i-multiply din natin dito. So, this will become R cosine I over 2 plus E cosine I over 2 is equal to R. So, let's transpose this sa kabilang equation. This will become E cosine I over 2 is equal to R. So this will become negative kasi ita-transpose natin sa kabila. R cosine I over 2. Okay? Then factor out natin si R. So this will become, or i-divide na lang natin both sides ng cosine I over 2. No? Divide natin both sides by cosine I over 2, makakancel ito. Or mag-multiply tayo ng 1 over cosine over 2. I mean 1 over cosine I over 2. Okay? So if this will be multiplied dito, so makancel lang yung cosine I over 2. So the equation will become, it's just like E. Then next, R multiplied by this will become R cosine I over 2 minus ito divided by this, ang matitira na lang ay R. Then factor out natin si R. So the equation will become E is equal to R multiplied by 1 over cosine I over 2 minus 1. This will now be our formula for external distance. Next, we also have this middle ordinate or yung M. So paano naman yung gagamitin natin doon? So yung middle ordinate is distance from the midpoint of the long chord to the midpoint of the curve. So this is our M. So kanina, if from dito to the central angle or to the center is our radius, so gamitin na lang natin to, yung distance na to. So ano na ngayon yung distance na to? Tama ba? This is just radius. So mula dito hanggang dito, this is R. Ano na lang yung distance mula dito hanggang dito? So this will become R minus M. Okay? So yung angle na to, this is still I over 2. So if we are going to consider this triangle, this is still radius. Yung distance ngayon na to, that is just R minus M. So meron tayong angle dito. So anong pwede natin gamitin dito na trigo function? So pwede natin gamitin cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay? So again, cosine I over 2 is equal to adjacent, which is R minus M, over hypotenuse, which is the radius. Okay? So cross multiply, we can make this equation as R cosine I over 2 is equal to R minus M. Okay? So ito ilipat natin sa kabila, ito ilipat din natin doon. So the equation will become M is equal to R minus R cosine I over 2. Factor out natin si R. So the formula will become R 1 minus cosine I over 2. So this will now be our formula for our middle ordinate. And these are the formulas that we will be using in connection with our simple curve. Again, for our length of curve, so this is our formula. For our tangent distance, for our long chord, for our external distance, and for our middle ordinate. So these are the formulas that we will be using for a simple curve. For the continuation of our discussion, we will be solving sample problems in connection with our simple curves.